Am I the jerk for telling my dad and stepmom they embarrassed me in public by telling their families what my stepsisters did and made nothing better? Please tell me if I'm being an ungrateful brat or not. My dad is married to Claire. I, a 16-year-old female, was 8 years old when they got married. Claire had 2 daughters before she met my dad, who are now my stepsisters, Elle, a 16-year-old female, and Miri, a 17-year-old female. At first, we were only together half the time because the girls were with their dad. My mom died when I was 6 years old, so I lived with my dad all the time. My dad and Claire rushed things, and Claire's girls never really liked me. They weren't that mean back then, but would ignore me a lot. It got worse when their dad got more angry about my stepmom getting married again. I saw him a handful of times, and he insulted me and called me names. He also made a big deal out of hating my dad. Elle and Miri started taunting me about it and telling me how much they and their dad hated me. We went to family therapy for 2 years. It was unpleasant. The last 10 months have been really bad for me personally. I lost my maternal great-grandmother. My maternal aunt moved to Australia, and while we stay in touch, she and I were super close, so it was a big change for me. My best friend was diagnosed with cancer. I am trying to be strong and brave for her, and she's doing much better, but it terrified me that she was going to die too. It's the kind of cancer my mom had, but my best friend's cancer was caught much earlier, which helped. Without her around me, I also started getting bullied. When a high school trip came up, my dad was really eager for me to go, especially since my stepsisters were also going. My stepmom and dad thought my stepmom had finally gotten through to them because they were being civil with me, sometimes even seeming friendly. On the day we were leaving, I was put on a bus with them. They brought food their dad had made. I was sitting with them and their friends, teacher-assigned seating, and they shared it with all of them except me. They mocked me because I was starving by the time we arrived at our first stop. They also grabbed my prepaid card that was for buying food and other items. I only got it back when we arrived at the hotel we were staying at. Miri and Elle were separated after that because we were grouped up by grade once we got there. Elle told her mom we were going to share, but when we were there, she picked her friend and left me. She refused to let me be a third in their room when the teacher asked. When the trip was over, my stepmom was furious. Fast forward a few months, and on Saturday, we were at my stepmom's family's house, and my paternal relatives were there too. Dad and stepmom told everyone there what my stepsisters had done. I was so embarrassed because they had to talk about how nobody wanted me, and it was forced. I told them afterward that they had embarrassed me, and that it didn't help because it made Elle and Miri dislike me more since their family knew what they'd done. My dad and stepmom told me I should be happy they stood up for me and that I upset them by scolding them. Am I the asshole? Your dad and stepmom are trying to course correct your stepsister's behaviors and show that their actions are not acceptable. Unfortunately, it made you the center of attention, which was uncomfortable for you, and understandably so. Elle and Miri are going to dislike you no matter what, and their behavior needs to be called out for being inappropriate. It's important for your parents to understand that forcing a relationship won't help, and that they should respect your boundaries while still addressing the cruelty. Am I the jerk for not inviting my parents to our wedding, even though they now want to support me? My wife, who is 26 years old, and I, who am 27 years old, recently got married. We have been together for 5 years and got engaged 2 years ago. For context, I come from a conservative family, and my parents did not react well when I came out as a lesbian. I was forced to leave home at 14 and live with an extended family member. I had to keep contact with my parents because they did not want people to know they had let me go. They were never supportive or even understanding of my sexuality. There was a lot of tension and hurtful comments over the years. I cut off contact with them when my now wife and I started seriously talking about getting married. The hostility was too much to handle. Because of this, I made the difficult decision not to invite my parents to our wedding. My wife supported this decision, knowing how much their presence could potentially ruin our special day. However, a few months before the wedding, my parents reached out to me, saying they had a change of heart and wanted to be part of my life and support my marriage. They even apologized for their past behavior. This was something I had wanted to hear for years, but I did not feel as happy or relieved as I thought I would. I told them that I needed time to process their apology and that the wedding plans were already set. I did not want to risk having them there, especially since we had already made peace with them not being involved. The wedding was beautiful, and we were surrounded by friends and family who truly supported us. But now my parents are upset, saying that I did not give them a chance to show their support and that I am holding a grudge. My relatives believe I should not have done that because I wanted nothing but their support when I was younger. They think that not inviting them to the wedding has given them reason to dislike me and my wife even more. My wife and my older brother support me, but I am now unsure if I was wrong to exclude my parents, given their late change of heart. So, am I the asshole for not inviting my parents to our wedding, even though they expressed a desire to support me? I think you are not in the wrong here. It's pretty clear they wanted to be included in the wedding for appearances rather than genuine support. If they truly cared about being there for you, they would start showing it now instead of making a fuss about the wedding. Expecting immediate forgiveness is ridiculous given the history, and their reaction should make you reconsider letting them back in at all. Am I the jerk for being mad about being left out of my partner's birthday celebrations? For some backstory, I, a 22-year-old female, and my boyfriend, a 22-year-old male, had our first baby. He was a surprise right until his birth. I had him at home alone and was unaware I was pregnant. I am happy to report that we have gotten on better than I think people would expect. Our families get along, and they have, for the most part, always been kind to me. His family are nice people, but they are kind of rigid and have some odd rules. It is things like expecting holidays to follow their family traditions regardless, or having a bedtime every night even for the adults. They get together at their house to celebrate for big and small occasions and expect all the family and their partners, including me thus far. Flash forward a few months, it was my boyfriend's birthday a couple of weeks ago. As usual, I planned some birthday celebrations and was excited to give him a nice surprise from the baby and me. Well, the night before, he told me his family was having a celebration for him the next day at their house out of town. I was not invited and would be keeping the baby overnight. I was actually really hurt by this but did not say much. I guess my face said it for me because he began getting irritated, saying it was not him who planned it and that they did not even ask him first. On one hand, it is not my birthday and it is his family, but I kept thinking about how many times I have planned his birthday and invited them, or that for my birthday, we both got a night out on my mom. I do not do these things for thank yous or to keep score, but it still really hurt my feelings. My parents, who we live with, were really offended for me. He asked when he got back why my parents were standoffish with his dad and proceeded to get mad when I explained why. He said he did not plan it and it was his birthday, which is all true. I do not even know if I am justified to feel upset. I did not have a bad night. I got my baby all to myself and I did not have to do anything extra, but I wanted to do the extra stuff for him. I just do not get why I am expected to travel overnight for his grandma's birthday breakfast, but for his birthday, I am not welcome anymore. Am I the asshole? You are not the problem, but there's a bigger concern here. His family expected him to go out all night when you had a brand new baby, and he didn't push back to include you. Any reasonable person would make sure their partner is included, especially on a special occasion. This isn't just about his birthday, it's about the kind of dynamic you both want in your relationship. Am I the jerk for telling my spoiled sibling they need to grow up? I am a 23-year-old female and a middle child. I have a younger brother who is 21 years old and an older sister who is 27 years old. My sister has never liked me or my brother and has made it very obvious. As a child, she constantly complained about us being in the house. She never wanted to be around us at all and would say things like, "When you two were born, it ruined my life." I know siblings can be rude to each other, but she has never shown any kindness towards us. I moved out at 20, and my brother is currently moving out of our parents' house. My sister, however, has never shown any interest in moving out or getting a job. She has been employed before, but she is too lazy to keep any job she gets and has given up. My parents have urged her to start being an adult or at least pay rent. She says she doesn't want to and claims it's not fair that my brother and I don't get this talk, which doesn't make sense. We both have good jobs and are building good careers and lives. At the moment, my parents have surrendered and just leave her be. She doesn't do anything except yell at our parents, eat food she doesn't pay for, and watch TikTok in bed. I can't even visit my parents anymore because she harasses me and says it's unfair that I have a better life than her. I haven't seen my parents in a few weeks, and on Sunday night I went over and had dinner at their place. I was telling them about my relationship when my sister came in and had a fit that I was dating before her. I told her that she could have a better life if she got up and got a job. She got angry and started yelling. I told her she needs to grow up and that she can't rely on our parents forever. She screamed at me and said I'm an awful sibling and that she wishes I was never born and that I ruined her life. She then stormed back down to her room. My parents said they think she needs to grow up a bit as well, but they believed I was being too harsh. Personally, I think their tactic of being soft just isn't working and they need to be more serious. Living with your parents at 27 is whatever, but not even trying to get or keep a job. They're letting her do nothing with her life, and they're getting old. I think they have to push her harder so she can get a life, but maybe I was a little rude. Was I the asshole? You are not the bad guy in this situation. Your parents are enabling her entitled behavior, and it's going to ruin their lives and hers. They need to be stern and set a clear deadline for her to find a job and a place to live. Let them know you and your brother will help enforce this, including packing her stuff if she hasn't moved out by then. She needs to face the reality of life, and sometimes tough love is the best way to learn. Am I the jerk for telling my husband I'd leave his brother if I were my sister-in-law? My husband's brother went abroad for a job 6 years ago. During the pandemic, his wife discovered that my brother-in-law had been cheating on her with another woman. They have a 10-year-old child. Since the pandemic, my brother-in-law hasn't returned home. I'm not very close to him or his wife, but we get along and have casual conversations from time to time since they've been married, and we have known each other for over 10 years. I didn't know about the cheating at first, but last year, during a casual conversation with my sister-in-law, I found out that my brother-in-law had been with this mistress during the pandemic. I believe she reached out to me because she was seeking help from my husband. My brother-in-law has not been supporting her or their child for years. She confided that all his support goes to the mistress. My brother-in-law fell ill and can no longer work abroad. He wanted to return to his wife's home, which is their conjugal property. However, my husband informed me that his wife disagreed with this, which I completely understood. My husband and his family were upset with the brother-in-law's wife because they wanted him to live with his family. I told my husband, no sugarcoating, if I were your brother's wife I wouldn't accept him either. He got mad at me, saying that what I said was hurtful as a brother. I tried to explain that I was just being honest. I feel like I might be at fault because I didn't read the room, given the brother-in-law's situation. However, my point is that they haven't been functioning as a married couple for years. He didn't return for years, got a mistress, and now that he's ill, he thinks his wife is still waiting for him. I hate sugarcoating things, while my husband is super close to his brother and acts like the head of their family, always being protective of them. Nothing you have done here makes me think you are the jerk. Cheating is cheating, and there are consequences for those actions. The brother-in-law left his wife and kid to fend for themselves, so why should they welcome him back with open arms? It sounds like both he and your husband have been spoiled and sheltered by their mom their whole lives. Am I the jerk for calling my sibling a classist jerk after they made fun of their child's accent? I am a man in my 50s and have a brother that I prefer to avoid. He is not a great father, he cheats on every relationship he has ever had, and he is just mean. I see him maybe once every 2 years. He cheated on his first wife around 8 years ago, and she left him and took their 2 children, now an 18-year-old female and a 21-year-old male, to live on her family ranch in a rural part of our county. He remained in the city, married the mistress, and saw his children twice in 6 years. I happened to be good friends with his ex-wife's brother, so I visited the ranch and brought my children over regularly, so my niece and nephew still knew their paternal family. They live a really great life in the outdoors, growing all their own food and living with all their relatives nearby. They have grown into outstanding young people with a great work ethic and appreciation for the earth. I sometimes wish I had moved to the country and lived in a rural community too. My niece is going to attend university out of state, and she is spending her last summer visiting all the family before she goes. I organized a family dinner, and she attended, and so did her father. Living in the country for 8 years, my niece has developed a country accent. It is very mild, but you can still hear a little twang when she speaks. I personally think it is adorable, but my brother hates it and demands that she speaks properly. Over dinner, he kept repeating words she would say to try and teach her the proper way, and eventually, I told him to stop. He then started saying she was not going to go anywhere in life sounding like a farmer. I started yelling at him and called him classist. He looks down on his ex-wife and how she chose to raise the children he abandoned, and I think it is dumb. I said that if he was so upset about her accent, he should have actually raised her. I called him a classist fool and reminded him that his ex-wife is a very successful woman with a country accent, and her accent was one of the things he loved about her when they met. He stormed off and is demanding that I apologize. He thinks I had no right to insult him for wanting his daughter to speak properly, and calling him classist was a low blow. Am I the asshole? You are not the one to blame. You hit the nail on the head. It sounds like he's insecure about how well they are doing and needed to criticize to make himself feel better. Yelling wasn't the best approach, but honestly, if someone is so shallow to think an accent is going to stop someone from being successful, they deserve to be called out. Accents can actually improve interactions and stats in certain jobs, so his argument doesn't even hold water. Thanks for watching. When you subscribe, make sure to hit the bell to turn on notifications so you never miss a video. To finish listening to all the stories, check out the playlist in the description.